Tom Brady was on the Stephen A. Smith show, and he talked about mediocrity around the NFL. We actually have the clip. I don't know if you've seen it. Here's Tom Brady chit-chatting about the current state of the NFL.
I think there's a lot of mediocrity in today's NFL. Yeah. I don't see the excellence that I saw in the past.
Why not? Why not?
I think the coaching isn't as good as it was. I don't think the development of young players is as good as it was. The rules have allowed a lot of bad habits to get into the actual performance of the game. Mm-hmm. So I just think the product, in my opinion, is less than what it's been. I think I look at a lot of players like Ray Lewis and Rodney Harrison and Ronnie Lott and guys that impacted the game in a certain way, and every hit they would have made would have been a penalty. You hear coaches complaining about their own player being tackled and not necessarily, why don't they talk to their player about how to protect himself? We used to work on the fundamentals of those things all the time. Now they're trying to be regulated all the time. Offensive players need to protect themselves. It's not up to the defensive player to protect the offensive player. A defensive player needs to protect himself. I didn't throw the ball to certain areas because I was afraid players were going to get knocked out. Mm-hmm. That's the reality. Wow. I didn't throw it to the middle when I played Ray Lewis because you knock him out of the game, and I couldn't afford to lose a good player.
Aaron, do you agree with that? And what do you think is leading up to that? Is it the young guys can't handle the same things you guys can handle back, and you're kind of one of the last of the Mohicans of the old guard, Peyton, Tom, all you guys doing those things? What do you think is leading to that?
Joe Flacco.
7. Thank you.
Footsteps. My bad. I left footsteps out.
Sorry.
Phil.
Matt Ryan.
Drew Brees.
Matty Ice. 7.
Sorry.
Big Ben.
Great question. I saw the clip, and definitely I think as much as anything I agree with the last thing that he said, and is that the rule changes have created a lot of bad habits. And, when I was a young player too, the greatest fear you have as a quarterback is getting one of your guys hurt. Throwing the ball high over the middle, exposing the guy and him getting rocked and him leaving the game. That was your biggest fear. So you were smart about certain plays and throws of just not making them. And I think, if I'm looking at this from a real big picture, like there's a softening of society that has definitely caused things like this. Look at all the sports. What happened to hockey? Hockey doesn't have the enforcer position anymore. Why? Because we need the fighting out of hockey. It's too violent.
Well, stage.
And people don't want to see the violence on TV. I think people want to see football be a collision sport. And not, to where guys are getting mangled on the field, but they enjoy the big hits. And there's certain players who you just knew were big hitters and would push the line of what's a cheap shot and what's a legit hit. But it's tough to play defense in the league. It is really tough. I saw a couple of calls last night and just thinking, that was not how it used to be. You used to play the Lions, you're getting rocked, just about every snap you're taking, dropping back, you're getting hit, you're getting pushed, and if you go back and look at some of the film on some of those games, I'm talking like 08, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
Yeah.
The game was reffed definitely a little bit different back then. Is it better in certain areas for player safety? 100%. Have we gone too far in certain rules? 100% as well. And I think it's really hard to play defense. It's really hard to figure out the strike zone, especially with the moving player. I think we've created bad habits in the some of the reads and the zero fear of throwing over the middle. I think we're some of the quarterbacks are getting rewarded for sliding late at times and taking very light shots that become 15-yard penalties. Obviously, Kareem Jackson is in the news for another big hit that's putting him on suspension.
That's a running back.
It's a hard hit. Yeah. Does he, is it intentional? I don't know. I mean, he's got a bad rap now. Some of these hits, I feel like the hit in Green Bay game was probably unnecessary. As far as it seemed like he had some time to think about that one, but things are happening so quick in the league. Who am I to judge? I haven't played defense. I don't know what it's like to, in a moment, have to change your strike zone significantly or think you're going to hit a guy in a certain spot and to be able to have your eyes open the entire time to move your spot slightly or take your head just slightly to the left so you're not hitting the guy in the head. It's very difficult to play defense, and I think there's some intent involved in most of these hits that it's not malicious intent. It's part of the collision nature of the sport. Do you go back now and review plays and try and figure out intent? That creates a whole interesting can of worms that they couldn't handle a few years back when they tried to review pass interference.
Well, we all could.
I know, but I've said this many times, and I'll say it again. There's a lot of great referees in the NFL. There's a lot of great ones who've retired over the last, good bit, and the majority of those great ones who retired are on TV now because the money is high and they can do great. And we've talked about this many, many times. Gene Steratore is phenomenal, right? But if they could give Gene or Dean or Mike Pereira or Terry McAuley, these guys who were fantastic NFL refs, the opportunity to kind of take that over with the right type of pay, and then they were willing to do it, I think you could see some interesting ability to make these a little bit more interpretable, a little bit, more in the nature of the rule, and maybe change some of these bad habits that I think have been created. But
the two names you didn't mention. Hey, the two names you didn't mention from the official standpoint: Walt Anderson, Alberto Riveron. They're the ones that have been in charge. All those good refs you just said. TV. Who's in charge of doing the pass interference they were doing first? Oh, Alberto Riveron. Yeah, he's the guy that's got to do it.
Listen, I like Walt. I always like Walt.
I don't.
Okay, I like both Walts. I like him, Walt Coleman.
I like Walt Coleman. Walt Anderson.
There's been a lot of great ones, and Jeff Triplett, Mike Carey. There's a lot of guys who retired over the last 10 or 15 years that were a big part of my career, and I appreciate those guys. But you need to get one of those guys, in my opinion, to get Gene because he's the best. Get him in a position where you pay him enough money, whatever the hell he wants, just so you can interpret the rules, I think, in the true nature of how it needs to be interpreted. And honestly, the refs would be great with that, I think. I think the refs would love that. And I think Gene could do a great job, and he explains things really well on TV, but you'd have to give him the right kind of money and have to give him the opportunity to enact some real change, but I think in the long run be in the best interest of the sport moving forward, so we don't keep going down the slippery slope of really taking the quarterback into more of a flag football environment, which, listen, I mean, maybe there's some guys that want it. I never wanted it. Like, I feel like being hit is part of the game, and obviously I've taken some shots, and one of the shots I took changed one of the rules. I got hit by a bar. I didn't think that was a dirty hit by a bar. I was more upset. I felt like he flipped me off after the play, which I guess we went back and talked about it. He hadn't actually done that. Or actually, I think I flipped him off. He gave me the suck it sign. But I guess it wasn't in reference to each other, so we cleared that up. And
I was telling somebody else to suck it.
Yeah, not you.
Yeah, I was telling you to suck it. You already did suck it. I just sacked you. I was talking to somebody else.
But I didn't feel like it was a dirty hit. There was, I didn't get the ball out quick enough. He was able to grab me in a certain way, and it was unfortunately a football play that went bad for me. Tom got hit low and lost his ACL. I don't know if that was an intentional shot down there. I think cleaning that part of it up. But then, the way you can't hit guys now, guys are going low more. I don't know if that creates more injuries. You have to go and look at that or more issues. But I think it's really hard to play defense. And I don't know if there's a clear-cut, way of changing things. But people enjoy the collision part of it. Nobody wants, the crazy spearing out there, but I think there's a happy medium somewhere in the middle.
Where was it in college this weekend? There was a guy in college that actually said, "Hey, here's video for you guys to show."
Boston College at Pitt.
On the targeting. This dude, safety, comes flying in and literally jumps like dolphin out of water with helmet looking for somebody else's helmet. It's like in the middle of it, it's like, all right, we believe that the intent there seems to be helmet to helmet, and there is a zero use of a hand or a shoulder in this entire thing. But I think intent can get read. And you talk about Gene Steratore being the guy with the feel and being the right guy. They had Walt Anderson drop into Monday Night Football. You remember that? Mm-hmm. Walt Anderson dropped into Monday Night Football and said, the reason why we called this was this. It's like Gene not only being on CBS, but being on everywhere, especially in his primetime games when most people are watching. That's good for everybody. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and handle that, Aaron. Let's do that.
I think it'd be great. I really do. And I think Terry does a really good job on TV as well. And, there's some really good ones who have moved on that could help it. But it would take the NFL wanting to make a change and then not being cheap and paying.
Yeah. Well,
we saw what happens when they were a little cheap to the referees back, a few years back when we had some.
That's right.
Some interesting people. But they'd have to, not like they don't have the money. Like, pay Gene or Terry or one of these guys, the right amount of money to just go through and see, and then practice them in the preseason and see what works. If it doesn't work, scrap it. But you got to work on it. You saw what sports are evolving now. Baseball, is not the most interesting sport, I think, for many of us to watch. But they did a good job on speeding up the game with some of this stuff,
I'll watch it.
and strike zone stuff has been interesting. At least they made a little box for the viewer at home to check out. But there's ways of maybe moving this forward that don't lose the collision nature of the sport that people really enjoy, because that's part of it. We realize we're putting our bodies on the line. I think that's part of the thrill, is knowing that you are a kind of a modern day gladiator. But if we keep going down this path, especially with quarterbacks, there's going to be flag football on us and tackling in a 1 foot tackle zone on defense, which makes things not as enjoyable, I don't think.
And I think what Tom's saying is going to make worse football. And that's what we need to remember whenever we're adjusting all these things.